So Jim,
Louis,
we've known each other for a long time. We've been through a
old
lot.
friends.
And my God, AOL, Netscape, lots of stuff that you've done. You've learned an awful lot over these years. And from what you've learned, what do you think you're doing right now because of all those learnings?
Well, first of all, it's great to see you. It's a great corner office here in Forbes.
I have my own bathroom.
Well, you have, oh my gosh, you see, unbelievable. Well, well deserved. I have a little desk that I share with 3 people in my startup. But to answer your question, I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is try to find really talented people and enable them. And the obvious sense that for what I'm doing now that applies to talented writers, bloggers, web talent, but I think it also applies to technical talent, designers, and even salespeople, the people who help make the money. You know, our philosophy at the company I run now is find the great people, but then support them with the tools and the infrastructure that they need to be successful. You know, one thing I kind of pledged when I took this job is like, let's make sure that we set it up so that talented people can run like the wind to do their jobs well.
And how do you do that? When you talk about tools, we've been through the tool issue, and you want to give people great stuff. How do you do that?
Well, a lot of different ways. In the context of creating the product, interactive media, you know, and I can only speak from my own experience, we put a lot of emphasis on the infrastructure. In our case, you know, we created a proprietary platform.
Now, you were involved in the purchase of weblogs. So
Exactly.
You saw that early on.
Saw that early on, not, you know, and you know this well, but our context was, you know, they asked us to turn AOL into a media company, and AOL wasn't a media company. It had an irrelevant brand for media. It had outdated technology. We weren't even on HTML. We had those little Rain Man screens. And you know, so we had to not only play catch up, but play leapfrog. And the acquisition of Weblogs Inc. helped, not only by bringing in some really strong brands like Engadget, but more importantly, I think, creating a system and having a technology in the platform, the Blogsmith platform that our friend Brian Alvey built. But that platform enabled us to create new brands that were relevant in the media space, brands that you and I worked on, such as TMZ.
So you found this platform that really worked for you.
That's right.
The new one.
That's
And it
right.
Worked because?
Well, there's a lot of question about how you create a scalable business out of pure digital properties, right? Now, you know, media is going through these changes, and a big part of the changes is that you take, you know, great physical product, whether it's this or television product that has, you know, legacy business model, and you're trying to kind of use that to build up a digital business that has much smaller revenue off of the back of something that's established. Generally, while that established thing is fading and you're hoping that new thing is coming up. We don't have any established thing that's fading. We're trying to build it up pure from the beginning and do it profitably. And you need, in order to scale, you need a really strong platform, enabling talent to tell stories in a compelling way, in a way that engages their audience, engages their communities, i.e. creates a big audience because the product is great. That's one thing. Second thing, enabling that talent to track and measure and improve in real time and over a long period of time to understand what works well and what doesn't work well. And there are other things too. I look at it as a stack of things. But you know, community moderation, just another example. You know, we all talk about interactive communities in the context of whatever website we're creating. Well, you want to empower community leaders to have the tools at their disposal to help make it a more vibrant community. So can kind of go on, but I really view it as a stack of services that the modern day publisher really needs to be successful.
So now you have a lot of sports bloggers, teams, and whatever, but it looks like you get a fair amount of community participation in terms of its own content.
We love sports because it's a common cultural touchstone. We love it because of the parables of life and other things. And we love it because we can talk about it. Mm-hmm. And it's part of my job to create value, to capture that conversation. The fact that we have structured a network around team by team conversations, a quality community after quality community makes call it the user generated content or the community content often as valuable, if not more, than the content that comes from the paid professionals.
So what haven't you figured out?
Most of it.
I remember a while back you were saying, you know what, we do teams really good, but we don't really sometimes have individuals who brand themselves.
Yeah. No, honestly, listen, we're proud to, we've accomplished a lot. We've cracked the top 10 of the sports category, and I think we're the fastest growing among the top 10. Let's face it, SB Nation is not a household name. We have a lot of room to grow. We think that we can be one day, and so we're working on that. And part of our challenge is that we want every University of Texas fan to go to Burnt Orange Nation. I think you do it mostly by the basics. Really quality content, quality community moderation, and then trying to use the tools at our disposal to get in front of as big an audience as possible. Whether those are search, social, working with other curators, all the kind of mechanisms that are at our disposal as kind of modern media producers to get in front of as big an audience as possible, and then of course engage the audience. And
so how's your, I did this startup, TrueSlant, and I found over those 2 years some of my views shifted about certain things. Like, has there been a big shift in view, not overall, but something that changed about how you thought about things were going to unfold and it didn't unfold that way?
I was only surprised maybe with the pace of things. I shouldn't have been, but maybe I was. So one thing in particular, and you and I have talked a lot about this before, but we used to think if we created great editorial products or great new media editorial products that people would come to us. I think we learned somewhere along the line that you have to go to the users. And part of my objective in sports, or as you know, we recently announced that we are going to be in the consumer technology space as well. But regardless of what category we're in, we want to be where our audience is. In the case of sports, part of our mission is to be wherever sports fans are. And what has surprised me in a sense is how many places they are, how quickly they are, how fast it's changing. They're on mobile. They're in search. People talk about search engine optimization like it's a nasty word, and I understand why, because there are a lot of people trying to game it. But there are millions of sports fans who turn to search engines to get their information from trusted providers like us, and we need to be there.
Social search, which is the...
No, social I think is growing faster. And in a way, social is, as a sports publisher and as a consumer technology publisher, social is critical to us because we deal with fans, and fans like to talk to one another, and and they use social platforms to talk to one another, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, or increasingly, we're a social platform, smaller one, in context. So our Chicago Cubs site is the largest Chicago Cubs social platform, where 100% of the people there care about the Chicago Cubs.
You don't do much video, right?
We don't do much video. Sports is kind of a tough category to do video in. I think increasingly you'll see us do more video. We do have more talent that probably could be in front of a camera. And I think increasingly in our new category, consumer technology, video is going to be a big part of that.
So that was, when I saw that, I go, there's Jim Bankoff waiting for the exact right opportunity to go after something. Because we talked a while ago about how you were interested in maybe moving beyond the sports category to something else. And what's the relationship there? How does that work for you?
Well, we did think about it for a while, and we wanted to be smart about it. I lived through the dot-com crash, so we know better than to throw money at new things without thinking it through. And first of all, we have a big male audience. We have, depending on who you believe, anywhere from 10 to 20 million adult males, affluent, tech-savvy adult males. And advertisers are working with us increasingly. We have a direct sales force and working with some of the biggest advertisers. About 30% of our revenue, in fact, is coming from tech advertisers who are tech companies, whether it's Samsung or Sprint or Comcast or BlackBerry. I can go on. And even the ones who aren't in the tech category are looking for affluent, tech-savvy males, whether it's Anheuser-Busch or Absolut Vodka. So consumer technology was an obvious one for us. What we didn't have was a talented team. And when we heard that the Engadget folks were going to be leaving and looking for something new, we certainly pounced on the opportunity, and we're extraordinarily excited to have them be part of our team. There's nothing like getting folks who, our company was built on the marriage of talent and technology, and the talent makes the technology better. It's like a film director, this is a crude analogy, but Steven Spielberg and George Lucas make the equipment better because they need to tell a story, and they can't tell the story without getting the engineers to participate, and vice versa. Well, that's how we see it here. The more talented storytellers we find for what we do, the better they push our product team, and the more excited our product team gets to work with them, and it all works well together.
So when you're tooling around the web, what's the last time you said, "Whoa, those guys are getting something right"? Don't fret about mentioning me here, but who's doing it right, Jim? Who do you look at?
I'll tip my hat to the big kind of kahuna in the new media space, who I think is Ariana and Kenny Lair, and we know them both. They've succeeded. They're growing something great. If I look at what Nick Denton is doing, he's also an inspiration in certain senses for what we're doing. He certainly is fearless in pushing this medium forward. I just spent a few minutes up the street at a company called GroupMe, which is an emerging company. I think there are only about 18 people, and talking about platform as opposed to content, but they have a really great platform where you can share things, again, in context with small groups of friends. Facebook, again, is wonderful in sharing things with now just about everyone you know. But what if I just want to share things with a few of my Yankees friends, or a few of the parents on my soccer team? How do I go about doing that? And given all the different communication mechanisms that are out there, what's an efficient way? If I look at guys who might be a little more under the radar and are putting together kind of cool stuff, there is Gabe Rivera. I think we use his products like TechMeme or Media Gazer. It's a little bit more of an industry thing, but the combination of technology and a little bit of human editing on top of that to make some really interesting products that I, as a consumer, in a trade context, really rely upon every day to kind of give me a quick hit of things. Another, if I look across the spectrum too, I really like what Buzz Media are doing in the entertainment space. Something smaller in the sports space. A friend of mine, Dan Shanoff, has a site called Quickish that's really interesting. There's a company called Storify. They're doing some cool stuff. They're a little bit in the like Tumblr-ish, in the sense that they enable you to grab interactive elements from Twitter and elsewhere to tell a story. It's very consistent with something we do, which is our story stream, and something I know that you've worked on as well. It's about presenting an interactive story in a linear context, and so they've been doing some interesting things there too.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Jim.
Louis. Good to see you again, man.
Great seeing you.
All right.